Hi, welcome to Cooking with ABN. My name is Ashley Beal and I'm a registered dietitian. Today we are going to be making egg muffins with hash browns. For ingredients, you will need about 5 eggs, around 2.5 cups of these shredded hash brown potatoes. You can usually find these in the freezer department, and I get it out as I get everything else out just to let it thaw slightly before we bake. Then you will need 2 tablespoons of some cream, half and half, or even some milk. I have some leftover cream, so that's what I'm gonna use today. Now, as far as what you put in your egg muffins, you can really do anything. So you could do bacon and cheese, you could do tomato and mozzarella, you could do zucchini and mushrooms, you can really do a wide range of things. I'm actually gonna pull some ingredients from my refrigerator that I used in previous recipes that I have left over. So for my egg muffins today, I'm going to be using some diced roasted bell pepper, some feta cheese, and I figured what would go well with these 2 ingredients is some kind of sausage. I actually ended up getting the sweet Italian sausage because I feel like the seasonings with that will be really similar to seasonings you often see with feta and roasted red pepper. So some sausage. To season my egg muffins, I'm also going to use some salt and pepper and some garlic powder and chives. I feel like garlic powder would go well with any combination, and chives I just like to do with my eggs. Last but not least, you will want to have some kind of oil spray or baking cups if you prefer to make them in those instead. I'm going to use this baking spray to line my muffin tin, so that way it's easy to remove the egg muffins. Speaking of muffin pan, for equipment today, we are going to need a muffin pan. The muffins we're going to be making today will make 12 muffins, so you can double the recipe if you want or follow along. Next, you will need some kind of medium mixing bowl and a whisk or a mixing spoon. And lastly, some kind of cutting board and a medium knife to cut our sausage or any other veggies that you're using. You may have seen in my other videos that I actually have a pack of 3 cutting boards, one that I use exclusively for veggies and one that I use exclusively for meat, and then a smaller one for easier jobs like cutting up citrus fruits or something like that. So I'm gonna be using the cutting board that I use exclusively for meat today because I'm only cutting my sausage. To get started, I'm going to have us fill the bottom of our muffin tins with the shredded hash browns and then bake until they're golden and crispy before we add the egg mixture. So let's go ahead and preheat our oven to 425 degrees. Once you have that preheating, let's grab our muffin pan and our hash brown potatoes. Now, before we put our hash browns into the muffin pan, I'm gonna take some oil spray and just lightly coat each muffin tin. Like that. This will also help your hash browns to crisp up really nicely and get that kind of golden brown color that we like. Then just add about 1/4 cup to 1/3 cup of the hash browns to each muffin tin. I'm gonna use my hands here and just kind of work my way around. You can certainly add more if you'd like. Once you've done that, I'm just gonna go ahead into each muffin tin and just kind of push the hash browns into the bottom and up the sides a little bit, just to create a nice little cup for our egg mixture. There we go. To prepare them for the oven, I'm going to take a little bit more of my oil spray and just kind of lightly coat the tops with oil as well. Again, this will help our hash browns to crisp up nicely and get that golden brown color. You can skip this step, but I do like to add a little bit of salt and pepper just to enhance flavor. Okay, now I'm gonna set these aside while I wait for my oven to finish preheating, and we can get out our mixing bowl to start to mix all of our ingredients together. Okay, I have cracked my 5 eggs into my mixing bowl. To that, I'm going to add 2 tablespoons of my cream. This will help prevent the muffins from drying out in the oven. Then I'm going to add my jarred roasted bell pepper. I got these already chopped, so I get to skip a step there. But you can also do fresh bell peppers too if you'd like, and cut those into bite-sized pieces. Then my feta cheese, just taking a little chunk from the block, or if you bought the crumbled version, just pour some crumbles on top. No real amount here, just kind of eyeballing it. I really like cheese with my eggs, so I usually try to get creative with some kind of cheese in my egg muffins. I'm gonna rinse your hands as you go. I'm gonna take my sausage out of the packaging and start to slice them one at a time until I have the amount that I want. Okay, so taking my sausage, I'm going to cut it in half lengthwise. That way I can have the flat side of the sausage to work with. I like mine to be bite-sized pieces, so I will slice them one more time down the middle, like that. And then just cut across. Perfect. Let's add this to my mixture and see if it's enough. I also want to note that even though we are going to be cooking this in the oven, I do get pre-cooked sausage. That way I don't have to worry about whether or not it's cooked all the way through. If you get sausage that is raw, all you have to do is simply just cook it ahead of time, but getting pre-cooked allows you to skip that step. Okay, there's my mixture. Let's mix it together. Okay, so my oven is fully preheated, so I'm gonna go ahead and add the hash browns to the oven and cook them for about 20 minutes, or at least until they're golden brown at the top. So I'll check back in on them in 20 minutes, and then if I need to add more time, I will. After you put your hash browns in the oven, don't forget to set those timers for 20 minutes, so that way we don't lose track of time while we get everything else ready. Now to finish up our egg mixture, we are just gonna take our seasonings. I'm gonna start with a little bit of salt and just season the mixture. Some pepper. If you're not sure how much to use, I would say maybe a teaspoon to start with and see how you like that. Otherwise, you can just do what I'm doing and kind of season it lightly. You can always adjust next time you make this. And give it another mix. Okay, so now that my egg mixture is all done, I'm just going to put a lid on my mixing bowl. You could also use aluminum foil or plastic wrap over top if you don't have a lid. But I'm gonna let it sit in the refrigerator so all the flavors can marinate, and then when my hash browns are done, we'll pour them over top. Just like I always like to do when there's a little bit of lull in the cooking, I'm gonna go ahead and clean up my area and put some of my other ingredients away. This is actually all we're gonna need for this part of it. So you can put everything away, clean up any of the dishes, and that way we'll have a clean surface to work with once the hash browns are ready. Okay, my cooking space is clean. There is about 12 minutes left on our hash browns. So I will check on those in 12 minutes, see if I want to put them in for a little bit longer, and then we will be back to pour the egg mixture. Okay, so I have my hash browns all nice and golden brown. I ended up adding an additional 5 minutes to mine, so a total of 25 minutes. But definitely play around with your oven. It could be a little bit different. Now we can get out our egg mixture and start to fill up our cups. I'm gonna give it a good stir, just to make sure everything's well mixed. Now to pour the egg mixture into the cups, I like to use something like this miniature measuring cup that has a little spout on it, or a large serving spoon. That way it's a little easier to get it into the cups. You can do whichever way feels easier. So I scoop up all of my ingredients, and then I just kind of pour it into each cup until it is almost full. I like to leave a little bit of room just to make sure I have enough of the mixture for each cup, and then I can go back in and refill it if needed. Once it gets down to the bottom, I will then just top off any that need to be filled. You can also use your fork from stirring earlier and separate some of the pieces a little bit if one got more sausage than the other, or you accidentally poured heavy in one and one is missing some. What I also like about this is you could always just grab another egg, mix it in my bowl, and pour it over top. Just one extra egg. Because the mixture in the muffins is already seasoned, I don't really worry about re-seasoning it. But if there's some stuff left in the bowl, you can kind of mix that in, give it a good scramble, and then just add to the top. This is where that serving spoon comes in handy. See, no big deal. The more exposure you get to cooking, the easier it'll be to kind of figure out how you like to do these things and what makes the most sense for you. And I find that when I allow myself to play around with it versus following a strict recipe, it also is easier to remember. It may take some trial and error, but then eventually meals like these can become what I like to call your back pocket meals, which is just easy meals that you can throw together in a pinch. And this could very well be one of them. So what we're gonna wanna do is reduce our oven temperature to 350 degrees. And then we can place these back in our oven for another 15 to 20 minutes. Again, I'm gonna set my timer at 15 minutes, and then I'm gonna check them. If you stick a toothpick or a fork in the center of them and it comes back pretty clean, they're ready to go. If there's still a little bit of the egg mixture on top, just leave it in for another 5 minutes and it should be fine. So let's put them in the oven. Okay, I have my timer set. I'm going to take this time to tidy up a second time, and then I'll be back in about 15 minutes. Okay, my egg muffins are ready. I did end up leaving them in for an additional 5 minutes, so 20 minutes total for that. Again, based on your oven, play around with that a little bit. But as you might be able to see, the tops are cooked really well. When I stick a fork into it, it comes out nice and clean, and they should be ready to go. So let's grab our plates. Because we sprayed our muffin tin, they should pop out really easily. They will be hot, so just be careful. Okay, and then you should have your muffins. Look how great they look. They smell so good. Now you may have to let them sit for a few minutes to cool off before you eat them. I let mine rest for about 5 minutes. So let's go ahead and give them a try. Oh my goodness, such good flavor. Something I hear a lot from my clients is that eating scrambled eggs or eating eggs in general can sometimes get really redundant and they get sick of it. Something like this that has such good flavor where the egg just kind of holds it together could be a really good alternative if you're having a hard time with just regular eggs. It's so good and so much flavor from the veggies, the sausage, the seasoning. And the best part about these egg muffins compared to some that you may get in the grocery store or at a breakfast spot is that because they have the added layer of the hash brown, it makes the meal a lot more balanced. So then you can get your carbohydrates, you can get your protein and your fat from the cheese. So that way this will help keep you fuller longer. Sometimes I'll even have these with some banana bread or a muffin served on the side, just for something a little sweet and savory. But it makes for a really nice breakfast, and now I have all of these left over for the rest of the week. Give them a try. Let me know what you think. If you added different ingredients to yours, I would love to hear about them. Otherwise, thank you for cooking with me today, and I will see you next time.